Have you ever wondered what it really takes to be a sales pro, but you don't want to be that salesperson? Well, you're not alone. When people walk through the door of your studio, they are not necessarily looking to be sold, but they are looking for a place to feel safe. They're looking for a place where they can enjoy their movement practice. That said, selling is fundamental to business success. So, what is a studio owner to do? Well, that's what we're talking about today with our very special guest and sales expert, Chris from the Sales Arms. Well, hi there, I'm Sarah Glanfield. I'm a business and marketing strategist just for boutique fitness studio owners like you. If you're ready to be inspired and make a bigger impact, you're in the right place. All you need are a few key strategies, the right mindset, and some support along the way. Join me as I share the real-life insights that will help you grow a sustainable and profitable studio. This is the Pilates Business Podcast. Welcome back to the Pilates Business Podcast. I'm Sarah, and thank you for joining me today. Now, I'm here with Chris. Chris is the founder of Sales Arms. Welcome, Chris, to the Pilates Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here today.
Oh, I'm so excited for our conversation. Now, the reason why I'm so excited to be speaking with Chris today is because he has over a decade of sales experience in our industry. And he has worked for some of the biggest brands, 24-Hour Fitness, Peloton in the early days, 2014 Peloton, he was working with Peloton. So way before most of us had heard of the brand, but more recently has worked with Exponential Fitness as well, where he was actually the VP of sales for the largest franchisee in the Exponential Fitness organization. And specifically, one of his roles involved actually reviving some of the failing studios, the studios that weren't doing so well. And through that, in that role, he developed programs to sort of revive and feed life back into some of these studios, and was able to increase membership by over 500% in just 1 year. And saw monthly revenues go from $25,000 a month to $65,000 a month on average, and continuing to grow. So Chris has seen a thing or two and knows a thing or two about sales, and I'm sure you listening here are really keen to dive in. But Chris, sales isn't really, necessarily everyone's favorite thing to do. But we all know how it is absolutely essential for success in business, right? And I think it doesn't even matter how large or small or what modality you're teaching in your studio. Often we're really just looking to make it as easy as possible, right? So tell us a little bit about how you see sales in the fitness industry today, and how that has evolved and what you're kind of coming up against and seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and thank you so much for the introduction. Really appreciate that. But sales today, right? Nobody really wants to even be called a salesperson. And honestly, in fitness, while the fitness business is, evolving around a sales process and your business grows through a sales process, we're more now in what I like to call fitness prescribers. And that's how we should look at ourselves, right? A lot of people are coming to fitness studios and researching where they can go because they know what they want as a goal, right? But they don't know exactly how to get there. And when they're coming to your facility, they're not necessarily looking to be sold, much more where they're looking to be prescribed what's going to get them to, the goals that they have for themselves, and where they can do that, where they feel most welcome, connected, where they feel a community, where it's like a home away from home, right? And that's where the industry has changed the most, in my opinion, from those 2014 days, those big box days where it was really you were calling somebody, it was just, you want to lose weight and look great, right? And you want to convince them to join from that aspect. Whereas now you want somebody to join because they feel connected to your business, because they truly believe that, one, you believe in them and their ability to get to their goals, and that everybody that goes to your facility is going to be connected with them in that journey.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's changed dramatically in that sense. And I think that one of the I mean, you've been in this industry, I've been doing this for 10 years. Before that, I also worked in boutique fitness back when sort of boutique fitness was baby. And we were almost the opposite of what was in existence at that moment, right? With the big box gyms selling memberships and only memberships with all of the things. And a lot at the time, it was almost people looking for the opposite of that experience. They wanted the smaller spaces and that really was what really started this new kind of evolution in sort of that 2007, 2008, 2009, and into the industry that it is today. And I think over the course of that, a lot of folks still have got perhaps in the back of their minds, they're still avoiding perhaps some of the tactics that perhaps they were used on them in that time period, or that they don't enjoy and they don't want to put onto others. But then it creates a scenario where, okay, so how do we now still sell successfully in our boutique fitness business without taking on perhaps those sorts of tactics.
Sales tactics?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. Where in the shift now, it's about really connecting emotionally, right? Understanding what somebody is looking for and what they really want to achieve. It's not about what you have and what you're going to give them, more so than it is what their needs are and how your facility can help them achieve those goals, right? And that's how people want to be spoken to as well, because they have all the information on your facility now. Whereas back when it was more commercial gyms and big box, right? You were going in there to tour it around and see what was in there and figure out if if it was going to fit you well. But when boutique came, it was in most cases, one modality. Maybe it's a Pilates studio, right? And they know what's in there, but they're just not sure exactly how they're going to get to that goal. But what sets boutique apart is really having that personal aspect and feeling as if somebody's with you through your classes, in comparison to being in commercial gyms where you're kind of just doing it on your own. And that's why people have fled to going to more of a boutique approach, because it gives them that personalization and that feel that this is specifically for them, and they have somebody with them, right? Through that experience.
Right. So with that in mind, what sort of best practices are you seeing in the studio sales process today?
What I'm seeing a lot of that has been doing really well is really taking the time to understand the people who are reaching out to you. So people call them prospects, people call them leads, right? When that person's information comes in, truly taking the time out to reach out to them, get them on a phone or in a text message conversation, and asking about them, right? Not just saying and listing off all of the things that you offer, but truly asking about them to get a better understanding of how you can tailor your program and your experience to what their needs are. The studios that I work with that are doing the most really create this sense of, in you being that individual, that only person that they care about, that you're there for them and only them, right? And giving that energy that what they're going through matters just as much to you as it does to them.
Right. And does that happen before they've come into the studio or during their first visit? When does this start to sort of take place in the process?
It starts before they get into the studio in the best case scenario, right? You're able to connect with them in that booking process, right? Trying to understand, what day is going to be best for them, but in that time also understanding who they are. But it then flows into the facility, right? They walk in, and if they had a great conversation on the phone, they're expected to continue with that same energy. So if the person that was on the phone isn't the person at the front desk, you would hope that person at the front desk is delivering that same energy, was expecting them, so they feel like, oh my God, they really do pay attention, they really do care. And then transferring that trust into the instructor, and the instructor having that same energy for them, because all of those parts are going to collectively make that person feel like they're at home and this is truly a place for them. So while it starts before you come in, it takes everybody doing their part in the studio process to really give that person that overall feeling
Right.
of community and home.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I'd imagine then that there's a little bit, and I think this is one of the things that is most challenging for studio owners, but there's a little bit of staff and team training that has to happen in order for this process to be seamless. So how
Yes,
does
and
that,
that's
how does that work? And what sort of best practices do you have that you recommend for studio owners in that regard?
that's one of the things that gets spoken about least in growing a fitness business, in starting a studio, is that you really do rely on a number of moving parts, from
Mm.
you being the owner or general manager maybe, and then you have your front desk, and then you have your instructors. There are a lot of people that you do have to train. So I always tell my studio owner and my general managers, people do what you inspect, not what you expect, right? So it's important to make sure you're taking out the time to go over everything that everybody is doing, right?
Yeah.
Listening in on phone calls that are made, maybe going back and reading the text messages that were sent, and actively getting together and just fine tuning it, right? Like,
Right.
this isn't something where you do it once and set it and forget it and everybody just remembers and does it. It's something where you need to continuously, be training, practicing, testing each other on different scenarios, because everybody's different that's stepping through that door, and it's not going to be the consistent same conversation. So just setting up a time, maybe once, twice a month, to go over all of the parts of the process where you're speaking, connecting with somebody else, to make sure you and your team are delivering the sound and the vibe and the energy that you want your studio and brand to speak.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Team training is so overlooked, but
Nobody
so
wants to do
incredibly
it.
important.
No, not again. Role playing, but it
Oh,
really makes,
so
in
important.
practice makes progress, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that you do it all the time, because even the people that say, no, I really don't want to do it, do we have to do it again? When they do it, they're better at the end of it, right? And it's like, all
They
right,
are.
it's over, but you did it, and you're better because of it, right? So it's important to make it fun too, right? You let it be something team building. Don't always have it be where it's in the studio. Maybe you do an offsite and you guys get together and go over all of it. But the most important thing is that the reason why we're doing this is because we're helping change somebody else's life, right?
Mm.
We need to be that amazing person for the people that are coming in, because we don't know who is supporting them in their fitness journey. We don't know how many times they failed. We don't know how
Right.
the other studio treated them and made them feel. So while it's tedious and we're doing it over and over, it's so important for that one person to make sure we're doing it our best every single time. And that just comes with, regular practice.
100%. And, you're paying your team for that time that they're in your meeting and getting trained.
Yes.
How else do you have other ways that you incentivize a team? Is there a commission type setup that you would recommend or not? This is something that comes up a lot and it's tricky.
So over the years, right, in most old school, it was, have salespeople who are going to make the calls, who are going to do all these things, and once somebody signs up, that's where they get commission. Just with how things are going generationally, and people not really wanting to make calls and connect as much, in that sales sense, like we said in the beginning, sales has this gross feeling to it now, right?
Yeah.
We don't, and people don't want to be looked at as salespeople. But what I have found to be very successful recently is incentivizing your staff to bring people in, right? A lot of people are spending money on digital marketing and things like that to garner leads for their business, when the best people to do it are the people that work there, because in most cases they love the brand, they love the class type, they're probably taking class if they work there, and incentivizing them to bring more bodies through the door has shown a lot of success, because people aren't signing up for your facility, believe it or not, because of the front desk salesperson, right?
Right.
That person is just a processor, essentially, right? They're signing up because they had a great experience. The instructor was awesome. They feel like they can reach their goals there coming regularly, and that's why they're signing up. So if you know you have a great product, a great team in place, and people truly love your community, incentivizing somebody to bring more people is a better way to then incentivize your team, instead of making them salespeople that they're not. They're promoters of your business already. They go out in the community. They they can talk to anybody about your business, and if they get money for bringing people in, you'll be surprised how many more people that they bring in, and it just naturally allows your business to do its thing and grow. Because the hardest thing that we're really seeing is quality leads coming into the business, quality individuals stepping through that door.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've got, we've got the process kind of kicks off before you come in, of leading them and them the client feeling like you are, helping them and you're focused on helping them. And then we've got a great team who you've trained and who is confident at having conversations and inviting people in. And they're also going out in the community and spreading the word and maybe you're incentivized to do that. Where else does price come into play? And how else do you use pricing as a tool for conversions along the way?
Pricing is obviously going to come into play post that class, right? Once you're getting into the mode of, I want this person to be in our community for years to come, right? There comes a cost with it, because we are running a business. Price comes into play at that point after class, and the way I teach my studios to use it is as a value point, right? You don't need to discount anything if you're really delivering value, and you know that if somebody sticks to your program consistently, they're going to reach their goal. You don't need to discount, right? Because they're going to get what they need. But you need to harp on that and really have that person that's in front of you understand the difference, right, that you're going to provide for them. And that's going to come through the attentiveness, the attention you're going to give them, making sure that they're going to reach their goal, in comparison to the discount place up the road that just wants you to hopefully not come, right? Pay your cheap membership. You come, you don't come, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to them, right? You're going to be paying a higher price at our facility because we're going to make sure that you are going to be successful. And then you have to make sure your team delivers on that once they do sign up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on the same page. I am in a complete agreement. I think price is a nice little tool, but it's not why people choose your business, and you shouldn't use it as your only marketing tool either. It's about the messaging, and it's about the product, and it's about being able to communicate your value effectively. All of those things are so incredibly important.
In most cases, people have gone somewhere and signed up for something similar due to price and had a bad experience.
Yes.
So I often, if I can, try to ask, have you ever signed up for, a gym or a boutique studio because it was the best price? How was that?
Right.
Why aren't you there anymore?
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And getting into that really, and then saying, okay, well, this is what sets us apart, and this is why we are at this price point. But I promise you, we're going to do everything to make sure you don't have that experience that you had at the bargain Pilates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. It's funny because I was talking to one of my studio owners inside of my Thrive group coaching program. And they were, her question was, what's your conversion rate? What's the conversion rate? And, I said, well, it really, we all have our goals of what it could be. But ultimately the conversion rate is going to be a function of the quality of the leads that you bring in. And alongside the other sales process that you have in place, right? Because any studio can bring in a slew of new clients with all sorts of free discounted stuff, right? But the reality is that what we care about is that retained number of clients at the end of it, and what that average lifetime value looks like for our clients. That's what matters. That's what drives that consistency and a stable, like a financially stable boutique fitness business, which is what I think we all want, right? So it's all about the quality. It's the quality of the leads is so important, and it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something big that I always tell my clients as well, to when they're working with marketing companies, don't get caught up in, I can get you 300 leads a month. Yes. It's like, okay, how many of that 300 are going to truly answer when I text them, call them, or actually come through the door? Because if you give me 300 leads and only 5 come in, right? I'd much rather work with the person who's giving me 40 leads and 30 come in.
Right.
Right. So,
right.
So
100%.
Sure lead quality is the top priority, is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a post-COVID world that we're in, what are you seeing working right now? Because I think things have really rapidly evolved and changed in the last 4 years, 5 years. What are you seeing working right now?
What I'm seeing work the best is the studios that are having their instructors become more involved in the management process of the facility. Truly, the instructor is really that the person that is your best salesperson, right? People are coming there because they believe that instructor is going to be able to get them to their goal. They take the class. After the class, they've determined, okay, I think I can do this, right? But you need your instructor to truly be connecting with that person, because that's who they trust the most. They just listen to them for 45 minutes, maybe to an hour, tell them what to do. So the studios I'm working with, where you see instructors as general managers or as assistant managers, somewhere in the process of the business as well, they tend to do really, really well, because they always look at it at the overall picture of the business, not just them as an individual. Whereas vice versa, a lot of studios that are having trouble have instructors that come in, do their thing. Maybe they have a clique of people that have been following them, right? So they only talk to them, And a lot of the new people are just kind of falling by the wayside or in a limbo of what should I do, right? Where you need that instructor to be, the doctor in the doctor's office. They're going to prescribe to that new individual how often they need to come, right? Who they should take, who's going to be best for them to reach their goals, and how long it's going to take. But that person is going to listen and trust that instructor if they can take all that information, transfer that trust to the front desk, so the front desk can simply process what is best for that individual. So if you have that disconnect where the instructor isn't a part of that process, you're not going to see as much success as the ones that are.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? I love that. And it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. So tell us a little bit about the sales arms and how you and your company help studio owners with all of the things that we've just talked about.
Yeah, so all of the things we talked about, right? Like it can get very, very tedious.
Yes.
Making the phone calls, texting all the people, they don't answer, so you gotta call them again the next day and do all of that follow-up, right? It would be ideal if somebody would do it, in studio, but as the years go by, less and less people want to do that job. So at the sales arms, we are your best sales manager, right? We're virtually working within your system to call all of your prospects, to follow up with all of your missed sales, so that there's always a human aspect on the other side of reaching out to clients in your business. Fitness is still an emotional buy, and people want to connect with somebody to really speak about when they were most successful, when they failed, what they did that made them fail, and how they want to change, right? They want to build that connection. And the studios that we work with set themselves apart by having us as that constant contact of somebody on the line that's going to make sure we're personalizing their experience with their business.
Amazing. So it's just like an outsourced sales team that knows your studio, knows your clients, knows how to make it all happen. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's important for us to understand our client's brand and their voice and their sound. So we take a lot of time on our onboarding to understand, what drove you to open your Pilates studio? Why are you still passionate about it today? How do you sell somebody? You sell me, right? So that I can deliver that same conviction that you have when we're on the phone with your prospects, to make sure that your brand voice is heard through our outreach, right? We might not be in the facility, but our goal is for somebody to come in and say, hey, where's Chris? He was so great. I was talking to him, he set me up, he was great, right? That's what we love the most, when people really feel connected to us through our conversation, right? Because that means we did our job. They're excited to come in. They're warm now for everybody that's in the facility, and it makes it easier to just continue a conversation and a good time, as opposed to having to start everything, at that point in the facility. And like I said, if you can start it before they get in, you're already ahead of the curve in terms of getting them to feel comfortable in your community.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic because it is one of those things that you want more sales, and it's something that, but there's all these things that that sort of create these little challenges that sort of keep you from not doing the things, whether it's training your team, time, all of it, right?
Everybody on my team were managers, right? I was a manager once before a boutique studio as well. And you make a plan to reach out to the most recent 100 people, and then boom, the washer breaks. Right. And then your favorite member talks your ear off for 45 minutes post-class, and now you have to jump in this meeting, and now the whole plan to call the 100 people is completely gone, and now you have to push it to the next day. That day becomes the next day, and then it's falling by the wayside, and you're just waiting for business to come in, when with back in the day, 2013, 2014, there wasn't so much competition.
Right.
Now, because of exponentials and self-esteem brand, right?
Yeah.
All of these bigger companies bringing all these different boutique modalities to your neighborhood. Now there's 4, 5, 6 different places to choose from, and it really makes it even more important to set yourself apart, to be different than all those other modalities through personalization, right?
Yeah.
Automation is important to be efficient, but at the end of the day, personalization is what closes it and sets you apart from everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people learn a bit more about the sales arms? Where should I send them when they call me?
You can go to our website, thesalesarms.com. You can find us on Instagram as well at The Sales Arms, on LinkedIn. You can always look for me as well. My Instagram is regular Chris, and we love just connecting with individuals who just want to figure it out, right? We do free discovery calls to see if just to see where you are in your business. If we can share advice that will help you move forward even without us, we'll do that and assess as best we can on our call just to give you, the tools that you need. But at the end of the day, if you can't find a quality individual who is going to be passionate about reaching out to your leads and calling and texting and following up with people, we'll be those passionate people for you, because we know how important it is to that individual who's calling in to have somebody really care.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share everything you've shared with us today. I really appreciate it. It was really insightful and I'm sure very inspiring to our listeners. So thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. So I hope this is helpful to you as you go about building your boutique fitness business. If you love what you heard, I'd be so appreciative if you could go to wherever you're listening to this, take a quick minute and rate and review this podcast. It would help all of your fellow studio owners and teachers to get the help, support, and inspiration they need to build a thriving studio business.